This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. The Trump administration and the EU agreed to a trade deal that's going to hit imported European cars with a 15% tariff. Last week, the stock prices of European automakers started climbing as a deal looked likely, but they're down today as the reality of that is starting to sink in. The U.S. used to charge a 2.5% tariff on imported cars from Europe, so the new level is 6 times higher. On a $50,000 car, that 15% comes to $7,500, which is next to impossible for an automaker to absorb on its own. And that means prices are going to go up. As if to put an exclamation point on the impact of the tariffs, Audi is blaming them and restructuring expenses for a big drop in profits and free cash flow. Audi sold over 400,300 vehicles in the second quarter, which was down more than 8%. That includes the Bentley and Lamborghini brands. It brought in just over 17 billion euros in revenue, which was down fractionally, but its operating profit dropped nearly 64% and its profit margin sank to 3%. Net cash flow fell 50%. And that's just for one quarter. But Audi seems to think that the second half will be better. Its guidance for investors predicts that things will be a little bit worse than last year, but not by much. Well, here's a pleasant surprise. The DC fast charging network in the U.S. is growing at a record-breaking pace. A company called Perrin, which tracks the charging network, says 16,700 DC fast charging ports will open this year. At the current rate of growth, the U.S. will surpass 100,000 DC charging ports by 2027, or double the number from last year. Better still, charge point operators, or CPOs, are standardizing around 350 to 400 kilowatt chargers. The reliability of chargers is also improving, standing at 85.5% uptime, and the prices that the stations charge for electricity is coming down too. The CPOs are opening new charging stations as well, but most of them are going into existing locations to reduce wait times. However, here's the most astonishing fact about the record installation of new DC chargers. Only 2 to 3% of the cost was covered with federal subsidies from the NEVI program, or the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure. All that growth is really coming from private industry. Contrary to reports last week, Tesla is not going to expand its robotaxi service to San Francisco. Instead, according to the California Public Utilities Commission, Tesla will offer a chauffeur-like service operated by a human driver in a non-autonomous vehicle, and it won't be open to the public. Only friends and families of employees and a limited number of selected riders can use the service. Tesla can't use its robotaxis in California because it hasn't applied for the required permits yet. And in other Tesla news, Elon Musk revealed that the company has secured a $16.5 billion chip deal with Samsung. Samsung will produce the next-gen chips at a new factory in Texas, which is expected to start production in 2027 or 2028. Samsung shares shot up nearly 7% after the deal was reported earlier today, pushing its stock to its highest level since last September. Samsung currently makes chips for Tesla that power its full self-driving system. Taiwanese semiconductor maker TSMC will make chips for Tesla's Hardware 5 system, and then these new chips from Samsung will be used in Hardware 6.
Developing today's vehicles. Issues can happen in an instant. When's the best time to solve a problem? The minute you know you have one. Meet Wireless NeoVi Cloud, your secure, off-the-shelf solution empowering real-time collaboration for quick resolution. With Wireless NeoVi Cloud, your team can prevent issues before they can escalate. Driver communication data and remote diagnostics to analyze and resolve your problems using OTA, allowing your executives oversight throughout the process. Wireless NeoVi Cloud, your vehicle update solution in production and on the road. Intrepid Control Systems, driven by your data.
Elon Musk confirmed that Tesla's new cheaper EV is, quote, just a Model Y. And someone in China just spotted what looks like several of these models in a parking lot. They appear to lack the new Y's front LED light bar and panoramic glass roof. They switched to a body color trim in the rear, a shorter center console, and fabric seats. And the screens in the rear have been removed. Since most of the interior is covered, there could be more changes. And there's speculation that Tesla could even mess with the battery size. Political tensions between China and India are preventing BYD executives from obtaining visas to travel to India. Ever since a clash between Chinese and Indian soldiers in 2020, India hasn't allowed executives from Chinese companies to enter the country. So, in order to run its Indian operations, BYD is holding meetings in nearby countries like Sri Lanka and Nepal. But that's not the only obstacle that BYD faces in India. The government also rejected a $1 billion plan to build a plant in the country, so it has to import most of the cars that it sells, which gets slapped with high tariffs that double the car's cost. Despite all that, BYD is steadily growing in India, but its sales are still relatively small. Last year, it sold 3,500 cars in India and nearly reached that total in the first half of this year. Consumers in China are not happy with the sales tactics of automakers and dealers. Reuters previously reported that brands Neta and Zeekr were insuring vehicles before they were sold, because once a vehicle is insured in China, it can be counted as sold, and automakers and dealers were doing this to keep up with sales targets. It wasn't some secret either. Some customers were told this outright by dealers after realizing in some cases that their insurance was in someone else's name. That has led directly to complaints on several different Chinese websites, and Reuters uncovered it was far more than just Neta and Zeekr. Pretty much every automaker in China, including major foreign brands, had a complaint logged against them. There's been a shakeup in Stellantis' design ranks. Back when FCA and PSA merged to become Stellantis, the role of Chief Design Officer was split in two. Ralph Gilles was given the Americas and Maserati, and Jean-Pierre Plouet was in charge of Europe. But when new CEO Antonio Filosa took over, he chopped that back down to one, with the role of Chief Design Officer going to Ralph Gilles. And now Stellantis announced that Plouet will leave the company altogether. No word what the next chapter of his life might have in store, or even a thank you for your services. As a replacement, Stellantis poached Renault designer Gilles Vidal to be in charge of its European brands, including light commercial vehicles. Vidal will work closely with Ralph Gilles and report directly to the company's COO of Europe. And don't forget that John and I will be doing a live Q&A tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We've got a number of hot topics we'd like to dive into, even a few that might stir up some controversy. We'd love to get your questions as well, but you'll need to be a YouTube or Patreon member. So if you're interested, please consider signing up. Plus, you'll get access to a lot more content. But that brings us to the end of today's show. Thanks for making Autoline a part of your day.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Intrepid Control Systems. Over-the-air engineering boost your game. And by